The first skill in section 5.3 that we need to practice is factoring, because we're going to get into solving quadratic equations, and one way to solve them is by using the factoring technique. Now, from the last video, remember that quadratic form is ax squared plus bx plus c. And I said that's probably the most popular form. And when you factor, there's different things to look at, but most importantly, we need to look at that a value. And there are two cases. The first case, which is actually the easier situation in factoring, is when the a value is equal to 1. I put two examples up here written in blue. First one, x squared plus 11x plus 24, and the second one, x squared minus 5x minus 24. And I'm going to factor them both for you, and I'm going to share some of my tips with you on how to do that. First of all, first problem, I notice that the a value is 1. Therefore, when I factor, the first part that I look at, the number one thing I look at, is the first term of what I need to factor. And since it's x squared, I know I can put in two sets of parentheses, and in the first positions are going to be x and x, because when you FOIL, f means times the first terms together. Well, x times x is x squared. So therefore, that's where that part comes from. Now, the second thing that I look at when I factor is I look at the last sign. That's the second thing that I look at. If the last sign is positive, that means both signs are the same in my factors. If the last sign is negative, that means the signs are different. Well, since the last sign is positive, I know the two signs that are going to go there and there are going to be the same. Then I look at this sign, and it tells me what they're going to be. So therefore, I know that I have to write in plus and plus, because my two signs have to be the same. Now I'm going to erase that, what I put up here. And now from the word FOIL, we know this number here and this number here multiply together to give you the last number. So that's the third thing I look at. And I need to figure out what two numbers multiply together to give me 24. Well, I'm going to make a list of them. I could have 1 and 24. I could have 2 and 12. I could have 3 and 8. And I can have 4 and 6. Well, my tip for you is to always start with the two numbers that are closest together and work this way. And now this is where the trial and error comes in. I have no idea necessarily which one it's going to be, so sometimes it's guess and check. So let's say I put a 4 and a 6 in there. Now, the middle part is the most important. I call this checking the rainbow, because the middle term comes from these two terms multiplied together and then added. So we know 4 times x is 4x and 6 times x is 6x. Well, if I add those two together, that equals 10x. Uh-oh, that's not my middle term. I want 11x. So therefore, I know that the two numbers that I have picked are not correct. So I'm going to do a little bit of erasing here as best I can. Those two numbers aren't correct. So 4 and 6 aren't right. So I need to try the next one, 3 and 8. Now I got to check my rainbow again. 3 times x is 3x. 8 times x is 8x. This is actually checking my insides and my outsides in the word FOIL. F-O-I-L. O and I form the middle. Well, if I add these two together, you notice, oh wow, I do. I get 11x, which is what I wanted for my middle term, and therefore I have now factored this problem correctly. The two factors are x plus 3 and x plus 8. Those are my factors. Okay? So that's a review on factoring. So let's try the next one. X squared minus 5x minus 24. Well, first thing I check, the a value is 1, and so it's x squared, so I know I have to write two sets of parentheses and x. Now I check the second thing, which is the last sign. Oh, I notice it's minus. Therefore, one of these signs is plus and one of these signs is minus. Third thing I check, the last number. Well, the last number is 24 again. Same factors that I had over here. Well, the only difference now is I've got a minus sign in my middle term, so therefore I may have to switch these around. Let's try 4 and 6. If I times these two together, the O's and the I's, I get positive 4x and negative 6x. 4x minus 6x is negative 2x. That doesn't work. So I got to try something else. Now, the first thing that you may have to try when you have different signs is to switch the numbers. So I'm going to put the 6 over here and the 4 over here. And if I try that, this becomes positive 6x. This is negative 4x. Now that doesn't work either. That's 2x. So that's not going to work. All right, so my 6 and my 4 don't work. I got to try something different. So now try 8 and 3. Okay, check the rainbow. This is 8x. This is negative 3x. Oh, that makes positive 5x. Oh, I want negative 5x. Well, if you get the same sign, or if you get the same number but the sign is different, you know you've got the right numbers. You just need to switch them around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a plus 3 over here. Plus 3. And over here I'm going to put minus 8. And now when I check, this becomes negative 8x, this becomes positive 3x, which is now negative 5x, and I have my two factors. And that is how you factor when the a value is 1.